course, very quick car. And like the Mach that I have, just very, very easy to drive once you get used to it, in my opinion. Especially with the one pedal drive. I think it's one of the top regenerative braking systems out there right now, as opposed to having a bunch of levels and all of that. But, and I have the propulsion sound on now. Really like the sound. I had subs put in mine, so I had to take it out because it was too much interference. But I actually like driving with it on. Now I have the car in unbridled mode now because I that's really the only way to drive this, especially at GT Performance. Now the unbridled in the California Route 1 is kind of just like how it should be. Engage is good, but I mean, if you're gonna be driving one of these, you can put it into whisper mode, especially if it's slick out or something like that. But I just love driving this thing with full power at all times. Even if I don't use it, it's just nice to have it right in my grasp, because to change modes in here is a lot more difficult than a lot of other vehicles where you can just hit a knob here or hit a button here or turn something here. I have to actually go in the screen and click here and then hope that it's up, and then I can do it that way. Which usually that's the only reason I use this anyway, so it usually is up. It's not a big deal, but I still have to go through all these extra steps instead of just knowing, hey, here's the knob right here. Now, while I'm sitting here in this very, very heavy traffic, one thing that I wish Ford would catch up with everyone else with is the charging infrastructure with the vehicles. I mean, now in the 240 plug, these are just as good as anything else, but fast charging, DC fast charging, I feel like we could do a lot better than 150 kilowatts when GM is doing 350, even the Hyundai Ioniq 5 EV6 Duo, they're doing like 250. Mercedes is doing something around there. So getting 150 kilowatt max charging speed is just kind of compared to everyone else. But I really think that the F-150 Lightning and the Mustang Mach-E are two of the better EVs if they just had better charging speeds. Like when I had to drive mine for long trips, whatever, I'm sitting at the charging station for 45 minutes to an hour, which is fine, but I'm having to do that every 200 miles, and especially if I'm by myself, I don't want to have to sit somewhere for almost an hour to charge when Hyundai's doing it in 20 minutes, Porsche's doing it in 20 minutes. So I just wish they'd fix that. But I will say, in terms of just the ride quality, even with the magnet damping, or magnet ride damping, whatever they call it, the ride, especially in unbridled mode, is about the same as my California Route 1 Mach-E, just in how it feels driving. Still rather bouncy, not necessarily rough, but I can feel the road quite a bit. Whoo! That thing will catch some, oh man, that was crazy. Crazy acceleration, absolutely crazy acceleration. Loved that, absolutely loved it. It was just gone. And what makes this car so great is it's just so quick. And of course, with this being an EV, you really don't need to go much faster than 120, 130 anyway. But I mean, this thing is absolutely insane when it comes to acceleration, from about here to maybe 80 miles per hour, something like that, and then it starts to die down. But I mean, this is absolutely just a really fast vehicle. Now I'll test the Blue Cruise out while we're sitting here in this nonsense, but so it's keeping that safe distance between myself and the vehicle in front of me, because I have it set at the closest setting that it can go in terms of just the gap between myself and the other car. But see, this is what I mean. Really annoying that this thing is telling me to watch the road and I'm sitting here looking at it. And then it'll tell you to resume control. It's just, the system itself is fantastic, but it's just really really annoying. Like, I'm sitting here driving and it's saying, hey, watch the road. Yeah, I know. But I mean, other than that, the Blue Cruise system is really top notch, just in terms of staying in the lines, being able to read most of the lines, and still being safe without Tesla. Before it started having you being watched and having to hit the steering wheel every so often, people were taking naps and all that. So this is a pretty decent system. I wish I had done this before rush hour because I really want to open this thing up. It just has so much to give. And that run that I hit uphill, it doesn't feel that fast, but it just thrashes you so much in the back of the seat, you can't feel anything. But I mean, absolutely insane acceleration. Especially right off the line. And what's funny is the California Route 1 I have is the absolute opposite. I don't really get much off the line, but then as I start to increase in speed, I can start to feel it pulling more. And I really like the pedal feel. I feel like as I put my foot down, it matches with what, I guess, how much acceleration I'm getting. So when I come out of a corner, it doesn't feel touchy at all. And that's one of the perks of having something that's electronically controlled in terms of throttle output. So even with all of this torque, the pedal does not feel touchy. But all in all, the seats on here, I told you I'd let you know how I feel about them. They're actually really nice, but what's weird is if I have to reach back to get something from the back seat, because I like to throw stuff in the back or whatever, I guess the shoulder restraint or whatever you want to call it is just in the way. So I have to actually like reach around as opposed to just turning. But I do like the seats better than the ones in the standard Mach-Es, I'll say that. But what's really cool about this car is you can literally go into whisper mode and you won't know what you have behind the wheel until you actually put this in an engage, unbridled, because then it just becomes an absolute monster of a vehicle. And I mean that, like, it's just wild. I could not, when I floored it at that light, I could not lean myself up. I literally couldn't. I was just getting that much thrown at me. So really impressed, just crazy acceleration, absolutely nuts. But as I come to the end of this test drive, just a really good car for the money, honestly, if you're wanting to save, as opposed to filling up a GT, you know, just a naturally aspirated gas engine Mustang, or really anything. It's going to be cheaper to do this, and you still have that same feeling of absolute enjoyment when you put your foot into this thing. So definitely recommend getting one. I really want one. It's between this, Taycan Turbo, EQS 580, and the Hummer EV. So I'm going to drive all of them and then figure out which one I want next. But this will bring me to the end of my review of the 2022 Ford Mustang Mach-E GT Performance Edition.